Okay, this segment is called Becoming Deployable. It's episode 20.6. And this is called a soft drummer. I basically told the drummer not to use sticks, just to use brushes, just to see what would happen. It's like a slightly different vibe when you use brushes than sticks. What style of music it is, I don't know. But let me tell you what this section's about. It's called Becoming Deployable. But I think I can't resist playing a little bit before telling you what the section's about. That is fun. Okay, becoming deployable. So here's the deal. Later in life, in my 60s, I went to a conservatory to study composition, where I met a lot of really great musicians. And I asked them all how they were intending to deploy their music. And they said, what a strange term. What do you mean deploying their music? You must be an engineer. I said, right, I'm an engineer. If you make a product, you want to get it into the market. You have to deploy it. If you come up with an idea and you're a scientist, you want to publish a paper. You want to deploy it. You basically want people to use your products and to read about your ideas. So I kind of wandered around the halls of Juilliard the first year, and every single person I met, if I found out that they were a composer, said, what's your single largest problem? And they all said, getting my music heard. I said, oh, you have never thought really about deployment. I said, what do you mean? You kind of like have to win an international competition and get discovered and get a prize, and somebody will take you on tour, or an A&R manager of a record company will discover you. I go, what do you think the chances are of getting discovered by a record company? There aren't even record companies anymore. There aren't even CD companies anymore. What are you talking about? Who is going to discover you? They go, well, you know, that's why it's very frustrating to be a composer. I said, well, why don't you just like make a concert and go out and play? So how do you do that? I said, starts with writing a check. You go to a place that has music and you go, I want to rent this place for Friday night. How much does it cost? And it generally doesn't cost that much, because you can't play in a stadium, because you don't have 50,000 friends. You don't even have 50 friends. You may only have 5. So all of the churches in the world are pretty much empty the majority of the time. You can get them just by making a donation. Or you can pick like a club on an off night. The point being, if a musician or an author or a poet or anybody who creates anything doesn't think about how are you going to deploy the thing that you created, there's not a very good chance that it's going to get out in the world. And it's really a bummer to write music that nobody hears, or write books that nobody reads, or sing songs that nobody knows the words to. So becoming deployable is the standard stance that I believe a creative person should adopt in the world. They should assume that it's their responsibility to deploy their work, whether it's a patent or a symphony or a poem or a recipe for lasagna, whatever it is. You've got to get it out there. And I know that word deployable may not sound like an artistic word, so use a different word. Use a word substitution. Exposure, expression. Go to a salon. Go to an open mic. Go to a restaurant and convince the owner that you'll play for free. Do something. Because one thing's pretty sure, if you don't do anything, then nobody's going to know what you did. When I worked at Apple Computer in San Jose, there was a little jazz club, so I went to the owner and said, hey, you have jazz like 6 nights a week, but you don't have a jazz brunch on Sunday from 1 to 4. He said, well, where would I get a band to do a jazz brunch? The guys who play in all these evening things, they cost too much. I said, well, I don't cost too much. I will hire 4 musicians. We'll create a jazz brunch. And I did this for 2 years by having a jazz brunch. Basically, it didn't exist before. I invented a jazz brunch, and then I had a place to deploy my music. And I discovered a very interesting thing, that if you could get the gig, you could hire sidemen who were better than you were for cheap. For $75, I could hire all the great musicians in San Jose because none of them were working in the middle of a Sunday afternoon, ever. So there was a gigantic pile of underutilized talent, and I got really great musicians to play with me, and then I tried to keep up with them. But since it was my gig, they sort of had to let me play too, and I could kind of keep up even though they were better than me. If you want to figure out how to get people to hear your stuff, you figure out deployment. And I'm going to come back to this. I like these brushes, and I don't even remember what I played last time, so I'm going to make up something else. I'm going to make up some flamenco chords with some soft brushes.